A playlist original.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. And my name is Gaius Bowling, and I am joined once again by our honorary co-host Donnie, who is helping us out again today for a little discussion about Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, and a little Marvel talk at the top of the episode. But welcome back, Donnie. Thanks again for helping out.
Thanks for having me again.
Oh,
It's nice to
no
be here,
problem.
as always.
No problem at all. We were just gonna talk about the movie, but I haven't brought up this whole because I haven't had anyone who had an opinion on it yet, or even had a guest on where we could talk about it yet. This whole like ongoing debate between like veteran filmmakers and Marvel and people who work with Marvel about the validity of Marvel as a brand, it seems like.
Mhm.
So starting from the beginning, which I know you've already heard, Quentin Tarantino was on a Two Bears One Cave podcast doing an interview and was asked about Marvel, and he said part of the Marvelization of Hollywood is that you have all these actors who have become famous playing these characters, but they're not movie stars, right? Captain America is a star, or Thor is a star. I mean, I'm not the first person to say that. I think that's been said a zillion times, but it's like, it's these franchise characters that become a star. Um, pretty much right after that, Simu Liu, who was in Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings and a Marvel guy, got on Twitter and quickly disagreed with him. And first he said, if the only gatekeepers to movie stardom came from Tarantino and Scorsese, I would never have had the opportunity to lead a $400 million plus movie. I am in awe of their filmmaking genius. They are transcendent auteurs, but they don't get to point their nose at me or anyone. And then he said, no movie studio is or ever will be perfect, but I'm proud to work with one that has made sustained efforts to improve diversity on screen by creating heroes that empower and inspire people of all communities everywhere. I love the Golden Age too, but it was white as hell. So that was the gist of it. And then yesterday, Samuel L. Jackson was on The View and was asked about this. And, he's an interesting person to ask because he's worked with Tarantino many times and is also a Marvel guy.
Right.
And when he was asked about it, he basically said that they can't really refute the superstardom of Marvel actors, much like the late Chadwick Boseman. And he went on to say, it takes an actor to be those particular characters, and the sign of movie stardom has always been what puts asses in the seats. What are we talking about? That's not a big controversy for me to know that apparently these actors are movie stars. Now, I think this all comes down to what your definition of a movie star is and what Tarantino's definition of a movie star is. I actually see both sides of this. I don't think what Tarantino was saying was like intended to be insulting. I think he was just trying to say that like those characters are kind of bigger than the people playing them, and that anyone, well, other people are saying this too. I guess you could say if anyone was playing Captain America, anyone was playing Thor, those movies would still make a lot of money.
See it anyway. Yeah, exactly.
They would still make money.
Because this is the way I see it too. It's exactly what you're saying. I see both sides of it. In a way, maybe Tarantino could have worded his statement a little better. But at the same time, it's like you say, people go to see the characters, not so much the actors. And sure, if they're familiar with the actors prior to them becoming the character, sure, like I get it. They want to go see their favorite actor be their favorite superhero or their favorite villain.
Right.
But it also comes down to that, like what Jackson said is that it takes an actor to become that character.
Right.
You need someone to bring that to life. And and this is also something that I've said is that sorry, there's a helicopter.
You're good.
So something that I've said too about this is that damn, I lost my train of thought.
About
hold on,
Jackson.
I'm thinking.
We'll get you back.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, it's because that helicopter threw me off.
Ambiance.
I'm like the one time there's a helicopter out here, and it's the time that I don't need it to be. Um, shit, I don't know. Well, let's just go back to what I was saying. Yes, it takes an actor to become these characters, but at the same time, people go to see these characters and not so much the actor themselves. Oh, this is what I was trying to say, is that the only reason that I disagree with Tarantino is that a lot of actors and actresses, no less, they make their debut in the MCU. This is like their first like actual ever big role. Like in Hollywood or something outside of like TV or anything, which is where a lot of people start. That I can see it happening. They can become movie stars, excuse me, outside of the MCU, but thanks to the MCU.
Right.
So take for example, like Chadwick, yeah, I mean, he was already kind of making a name for himself before that. He was in that movie 42. He played Jackie Robinson, and that kind of put him on the map. But Black Panther solidified his stardom. Like that was the role that put him like in the spotlight, like 100%. Right. Robert Downey Jr., say for example, he'd been acting since the 80s, so everyone kind of knew who he was. And thanks to like movies like Chaplin, or I like Tropic Thunder came out the same year that Iron Man came out, but they were already like butting heads. Like those two roles of his were already butting heads as to how popular they got. He plays an actor who's going against the norm, in Tropic Thunder, but he's playing the billionaire, genius, playboy philanthropist in Iron Man. And those two roles quickly became attached to Robert Downey almost immediately. But that's only because people already knew who he was before that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
he had a career.
Like I said, and it's like you say, I see both sides to this too. And my only issue with what Tarantino said is that maybe he could have worded it better, but at the same time, it's being blown out of proportion in heavy volumes, I feel.
Yeah, I think it is too. I mean, I think what I do agree with, and I've seen people comment it like on either on my G-Reels page or on Twitter, it seems like, with the exception of Tarantino, because he's not promoting anything right now, it seems like a lot of the veteran directors, they kind of take shots at Marvel when they're promoting something. Like James Cameron's doing it recently. He's promoting Avatar. Scorsese did it when he was promoting like The Irishman. Like, like it just seems like a weird pot shot to take when you don't need to, especially when you're on their level.
I think the only reason they do that is because they know that these movies make money. Like people will go and see these movies, the MCU movies, and when their movie is threatened by that mere existence, that's when they want to start taking shots at it. And in a way, yes, I mean, their definition of cinema is way different than what a modern audience's definition of cinema is, because these movies are what cinema is to like the younger audiences. Kids are seeing these movies, Something even I was talking to Brandon about earlier is that, the MCU's audience is so wide and diverse that adults, like, as old as like way older than we are, we got people that have been growing up with the comics since day one, and they're going to see these movies. But then we also have the newcomers that are like, barely being exposed to these things. They're trying to read the comics too. They want to be part of this too. This is the MCU's always been like a big part of history, in the cinema age, or at least in modern cinema for that matter. And of course, people are going to go see these movies. People take their kids to see these movies. People's kids are going to be taking their own kids in the future to see these movies. I personally think the MCU is cinema. Maybe not what cinema was back in the 70s or the 60s, or what Simu said, the golden age, but, this is our, this is like our moment to shine, I guess. This is our time to show our support for these types of movies that they didn't get back then when they were trying to emerge.
Yeah.
But
I see what you're saying.
It's just, I feel like it's just like a whole threatening of the mere existence. Like the Irishman came out the same year Endgame came out, and Endgame was in theaters for months after its release, and then still got re-released. The Irishman bombed at the box office, but it was also a streaming movie. So I mean, you gotta have Scorsese think, well, maybe maybe I was wrong there too, because I mean, people aren't gonna go really see a movie that they know they can watch at home. This is something I started to notice, especially thanks to COVID. A lot of people have gotten comfortable with watching things at home, which is fine. Who
Yeah, it's
cares?
funny. It's
But
funny
there's
too
a
because
lot of
we're gonna.
moviegoers that still want to go to the theaters.
Yeah, it's funny too because like what we're talking about later, it's the whole we have a movie that's well today it's its last day in theaters. I guess like it's been a
That's
week.
true. And
So we're talking.
and
That's gonna
we'll
be an
get
interesting
we'll
thing.
get to that in a minute.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, you know what, and I also I guess too is like Marvel takes the hit like they're like these movies are saturating the market and it's like they keep using Marvel as the excuse for that, but like no, then why don't you point the finger at like other studios who aren't greenlighting the stuff that you think they should make? Like that's a Sony
Right.
problem, that's a Warner Brothers problem, that's a Paramount problem. It's not Marvel itself. You can't blame like their success and them they're saturating the market because
Yeah.
it's successful. So you can't like blame that on them. Like people are going to go see it. It's not
Mhm.
it's not for you, but like
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to. I will say this: the one thing I disagree with Simu, he did make some interesting points, and then saying that the Golden Age was white as hell. I just didn't think that he should have lumped Tarantino in there so much like that because, and especially when he made the comment about like if it wasn't for Marvel, like he wouldn't have had the opportunity to lead like a $400 million plus movie. Tarantino is notorious for like hiring people of
Diverse,
color and
a
being
diverse set of actors and
yeah,
actresses.
diverse actors. So I thought that point didn't ring true.
Yeah, that's actually something that I pointed out. I mean, no harm against Simu Liu. I mean, I know he had the best intentions at heart, but
Yeah,
I feel like once he got to that point, I'm like, okay, now you're kind of making an ass out of yourself instead of trying to
right,
make an ass out of the other guy. You're trying to make an ass out of,
right.
to say that Tarantino. I mean, I know he wasn't like maybe poking directly at Tarantino, but there was a lot of implication that he might have been.
Yeah,
But clearly he hasn't seen a Tarantino movie. I mean, he had a woman of color lead a movie in the 1990s, Jackie
yeah.
Brown.
Jackie Brown. Yeah,
And then you got Jamie Foxx leading Django. Like, how much more can you get? Like the diversity's there, and just the ensemble cast alone shows that.
yeah. I mean, you
I
you
have
get
no
Samuel
idea
L.
why he
Jackson
said
along.
that.
Like, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I think, like you said, I don't think he meant. I think just because the Tarantino comment was the most recent, and then he kind of just
Right.
like kind of threw that into the bunch. Because when he was saying like them being the gatekeepers of Hollywood, like, well, if Tarantino is, he's a good one to have because he's been known to like uh cast a diverse group of actors in his stuff. Um,
Hmm.
from the beginning of his career up until his last, like projects and stuff. So like he's not like, I thought that part was weird, but I also think that it was just a general comment about like I think that had to do more with the Scorsese's and like the
Yeah,
Camerons
I,
and
I think
but
I think
even
that was
I
more
mean,
directed towards like them.
yeah, yeah,
The older filmmakers, because I mean, yeah, Tarantino didn't emerge till the 90s,
right,
which was like the era of like a lot of like different a lot of change was happening at
right,
that point, because out of the 80s you started to notice like a shift in like tone, the way movies were being made, and
yeah,
that's when everything started happening, like all these changes of like, well, let's try giving someone else a chance. Let's not
yeah,
cast the white man or the white woman, let's actually cast the black man, the black woman, the Asian woman, the etc. It's just going
yeah,
to go down that list. Like, let's try to be a little more open about it. And now look,
yeah,
now look what we've got the biggest diversity in cinema, like, of all time,
yeah.
especially right now. If you see half the movies that are being released even this year alone, I mean, look at Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, I don't want to get this stat.
That's like
I don't
the
want
prime example.
yeah, I don't want to get this stat wrong because I just heard it today, but I'm kind of paraphrasing it. I was watching something, and they had Gabrielle Union on, and the guy who inspired the new movie she's in called The Inspection, um, and it's getting a lot of Oscar buzz and stuff. But they made a point that like uh, there are 10 movies, I guess, this year that are being like directed and led by like people of color, and that's kind of like a record for like a year, like in like a year period. And
Hmm.
it's a crazy thing to like to call that a record because it really should. I mean, it still seems like a low number, right? Like it seems like that's like really low for especially for a whole year
Yeah.
of like filmmaking. But like that is what's changing though, and like and I've actually noticed that too. Like you have movies out there like The Woman King and Till and The Inspection, and like you said, everywhere. There's so many like that are like coming out
Exactly.
now, which is good. And I'm not and like and I don't want like Hollywood to be like to slow this down. They should keep that momentum going because clearly this representation matters because isn't the movie you just mentioned, that's A24's highest grossing movie now, as so that is like you know there's a reason for that, not only because it's a good
Mhm.
movie, but I think the fact that like you
But
have
because because it's actually it's different in terms of like who's leading it now.
yeah
Like we have an Asian actress
who's like
leading this,
what's
and that's
yeah
something you don't see every day. Like and that was really nice to have. Like
right
it felt nice, even as someone that isn't of that descent. I felt good about that. Like I I I don't know. It just felt like we reached a milestone
yeah I think so
with
too, and like
cinema
it's crazy.
because it finally got the recognition that it deserves.
Yeah, I agree, and it's crazy because someone like Michelle Yeoh, she's paid her dues like a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
Like she's been like she's been doing stuff for a while, and it's like crazy in the last like 2-3 years. It seems like she's just like I don't want to say hitting her stride because she's been doing this for a while, but it seems like she's becoming
Oh
more and
yeah.
more mainstream. Like and like
Right.
it's like people are discovering her like late. I think she's like 60 or in her 60s now, and probably like in the prime of her career, which is like a really cool thing to see. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's crazy how like late to the game some of these studios and stuff are, but at least they're
Then
doing it.
look at yeah, I don't know how to say his name. Kwan. I'm gonna say his last name.
Oh, under him,
The
yeah,
the the husband, the
yeah,
husband
yeah,
from
yeah,
Everything
yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He actually he did a speech last night because he won the supporting actor Gotham Award,
Oh, Gotham Award, yeah,
and and he made a very emotional speech that that he got the second chance of a lifetime.
yeah,
And he heard the three words that every actor wants to hear, and he said that the three words were "We want you." And
man, yeah,
the way he said it, it spoke volumes, because he didn't mean just like him or like any actor. He meant like uh, you know people that aren't like, I guess, like the typical typecast white actor, I guess, or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
nice. It was nice for him to like actually be like picked out of
yep,
like just by name.
yeah,
You know,
uh,
maybe because yeah, like everyone knows him. He was in Indiana Jones or The Goonies, but you know, the fact that they chose him, that meant a lot to him.
yeah. That's
And
awesome.
he basically said like, if I can do it, so can you.
Yeah,
Like everyone has a chance.
yeah, exactly. That's really yeah. It's nice to see, and like to kind of put a pin on the other thing. It's I guess because this Marvel debate's never gonna stop. I don't think, but I think like what some of these filmmakers should do, like looking at it moving forward, is like look at what it's doing in a positive way for the industry. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, particularly the MCU is like really been diverse in front of and behind the camera. This is not just like the actors. This is like directors and costume designers and writers and stuff like that. And like look at that positive, and then like, and if you want to look at the business part of it, like it can't be ignored how much money is driving to the industry too, and it's keeping some of it afloat, so you can make some of those movies that you want to make. I mean, I just think that like we need to look at the positive things that it's doing rather than
Right.
complaining about like, well, that's all that's out there. And I'm like, well, it's not their fault. I mean, then
No,
at a certain point, you're blaming the consumer. Like that's the only thing out there because that's what the consumer's consuming. That's what they're
I
going to
know.
see. So it's like it's not anything against you as a filmmaker. There's also a different time now compared when like James Cameron and Scorsese and even Tarantino were like kind of coming up. Things are changed, and
Yeah, like they were like the name of their time.
yeah, they
Tarantino
have to,
Tarantino still has that hold on like today's audiences because he's still making movies,
yeah,
with the consistency rate. And you know, and while no reflection on like people like Cameron or Scorsese, because I mean every work they put out, I mean it comes from the heart, it comes from a good place. But I think what they're failing to understand too is that not everyone was born like 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah,
There's people that
exactly.
exist now.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
their movies aren't for everybody, and that's fine. I mean, I go watch their movies. I like their movies,
Yep.
but I know for a fact that not everyone's gonna like them. Same thing
Yeah.
that applies to Tarantino movies. Not everyone likes Tarantino movies, but there's people that do.
Yeah.
Big deal.
It is, what's crazy though, there are certain things that they will adapt to. Like Scorsese is open to streaming. He does stuff like Apple TV. Like his next
Mhm.
movie is going to be with Apple TV Plus.
Oh,
He
that's
did, yeah,
right.
he did The Irishman with Netflix. Uh, and then there's some that aren't open to that, right? Like Steven Spielberg seems like he's more like, I'm sticking with theatrical. I don't really want to
Mhm.
dive into streaming unless it's like a TV show or limited series. Like he still seems to like want to separate what movies are and what like TV and stuff is.
Mhm.
It's crazy to see like what all these guys who kind of were brought up around the same time, like what they're willing to adapt to and then what they're not willing to adapt to. And the crazy thing is that like what you said, like people in your generation can love their movies. Like
Right.
you can go back and be like, I can appreciate that for how great that is and still look to the future. I don't understand why they can't like enjoy what was so positive about when they were starting out in this industry and then not also be able to positively look at up the future and where things are going. Like
Mhm.
you can do both.
Yeah.
We can do both. We can respect your old work and we can appreciate where the industry is going without trying to take shots at something while you're promoting your movie. Usually when you're promoting your new movie. It seems that's when it usually happens. It doesn't seem to happen like with the exception of Tarantino, like with the last thing, like it seems like when they're promoting and like I think you said it, someone else told me that same thing too. It seems like they take shots because while they're promoting something because they want to piggyback off of whatever success that is. So like I have a movie coming out. I'm going to complain about this Marvel thing. They're going to print it in Variety, The Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to talk about that, but they're also going to talk about my movie. So that will get my movie
Right.
some like of a push too. So yeah,
But
I think
the problem with that mindset is that if they make people hate them because of what they said and try to think, I mean, maybe to them it's like a marketing strategy. Like if I get talked about, so will my movie. But the problem is that if I get talked about a certain way, people aren't going to go see my movie. Like I don't
exactly.
know. I guess they don't think about it that way. I mean, I don't know. Well, I can
Yeah,
agree that it's a smart move, but at the same time, it's not.
no, it's not. Yeah, I agree.
Because not everyone's going to agree with what they say just because they're veteran filmmakers. Like, good for you, but welcome to the new world.
Yeah, I mean, like James Cameron's whole like press tour for this Avatar movie is just him being a grumpy old man. I mean, I it's still going to make money. I don't think it's. I think it is going to do well.
It's not
I
going
don't
to be
know.
a $2 billion movie. It'll make
I don't think so
it'll
either.
make good money, but it's not going to be $2 billion.
I mean, it did secure that release in China, and that I think that'll help a lot. But like, yeah, I don't think
That's
it's
going to give it a lot of its momentum. But I think after that, like here in the U.S., I don't think
yeah
it's going to make as much as he's thinking.
yeah I don't I yeah it's that's a I can't wait till that comes out and those numbers start coming out because I just imagine he'll be somewhere just biting his fingernails, just like waiting to see how things are going. Because it is going to make money, but like the way he was saying that what it needs to break even, that is, uh, I can't see it being like the third, fourth biggest movie of all time because it would need to make over
No.
$2 billion, and I just don't. And this current box office landscape that we're in, I just don't see that happening whatsoever. Um, but but speaking of box office and stuff like that, we both saw Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. I saw it on Thanksgiving night with my brother, um, and to happily report to a
I,
sold out movie theater. It
I
was
actually had a very similar experience. I actually went the day before Thanksgiving, and
okay.
my auditorium was also nearly sold out. And holy
It was
shit,
nice to
like
see. It was
I was
cool to
actually
see.
amazed by. Yeah, it was like I honestly didn't expect it to be as sold out as I saw it to be, and
Yeah,
it actually said a lot about like as much as people might hate Ryan Johnson for Star Wars, they love him for Knives Out.
yeah. Well, he everyone forgets that he made like Looper. He made some good stuff before he made
Make some good
that
stuff. Yeah.
that polarizing Star Wars movie. But yeah, I mean, I also not only was my screening sold out, but it was as far as the demo, it was all over the place. It was young people, it was older people.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, they've been talking about this like you know, pretty much since like people were started going back to the movies. They've been talking about like what will make older people go back to the movies because like the older demographic is
Right.
certain movies that skew older just aren't working. Like they said this weekend alone, like the Fablemans and Bones and All, which I guess doesn't really skew old, is just too niche. They didn't do that well over the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
but Knives Out, even though Netflix didn't really want to report the numbers, like uh they eventually reported numbers. It would have, if they would have tracked it, it would have debuted in third place with $13 million over like 4 or 5 days. For its week that's ending
That's
today
really
when we're
good.
recording this, it would have hit $15 million by today. And that's only in a little over 600 theaters because it's only playing in like some of the bigger locations. A lot of smaller theaters were really upset that they didn't get the movie. I hear that Netflix is willing to like let them have it after it hits Netflix in December. Um,
Mm-hmm.
And I even read today that one of the guys at Netflix said that we are aware that we're leaving money on the table by doing this 1 week engagement, but they compared it to like a film festival where it's like, all right, let's build up, let's kind of like hype, and then people will want to subscribe to Netflix to go watch it there. That's their train of thought.
They're just trying to make ends meet after they raise their subscription prices.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, because like I think most people know that the first Knives Out, which came out in 2019, was kind of a surprise hit when it came out. It
Oh
also debuted over the Thanksgiving holiday,
Mhm.
and ended up making like I think 160 something million here and like 311 million worldwide. No one really saw that
So it
coming,
was like
and
it was like 10 times its budget, I believe,
yeah,
almost.
it had like incredible legs too. Like it stayed around for like a
Mhm.
little bit as well. I kind of think this would have happened with this one too. If it would have gotten a wide theatrical release, it totally would have outgrown Strange World. It would have at least been number two this weekend.
Oh yeah,
Um,
easily.
uh, Reviews were just as good or near, but maybe a little slightly lower than the first movie. I think both movies are in the 90% range on Rotten Tomatoes.
They actually looked like they were. They looked like they were better than the
A
first
little
one
better.
because the first one had like a. Yeah, I think so because I think the first one had an 86%,
Oh, okay.
and this new one,
I think I saw
it went from an
92.
84, I think. Yeah, it bounced back, like
Yeah.
it bounced way back up again after its release, and I'm just like, oh wow, like so it's got to be that good, right? Like it can't just not be if it's doing this well review wise.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
audiences seem to love it. I don't know how our crowd loved it. I was surprised by how long it was, but I didn't realize how long it was until it was over. It didn't feel
yeah,
long to me at all. Like I looked at my phone, I was like, "Oh shit, that was like 2 hours and 20 minutes." Um,
yeah,
just like a quick cliff notes thing. I just thought it was a fun movie. I thought, I mean, I came out of it, and I don't know, my mind always changes. I came out of it thinking it was slightly better than the first one. I think I liked this ensemble a bit more than the first
I
movie's
think so. Yeah,
ensemble. I loved. I mean, and I think I loved this ensemble more because I liked seeing some of these actors in particular looking like they were having like just a blast being silly, like Edward Norton
Mhm.
and
Oh, dude,
like
Edward Norton stole the show,
the
man.
show.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, Kate Hudson was on fire as well. Like Kate Hudson was hilarious. Like she
I
knew that part.
know.
Like she knew that type of person like to a T, and I thought that was like perfect. Like the way she handled it. Dave
It
Bautista was
feel
really good
you
too.
know when I was watching it, I felt like Kate Hudson was playing like some sort of almost famous alter ego, like a washed up version of her character.
A washed
I
up
don't
Penny
know.
Lane.
Like
I thought,
exactly.
and then
I'm like,
and,
this feels like it feels like she's familiar with this already. Like I
yeah,
can't put
yeah,
my finger on it though.
yeah. And then I thought Daniel
But
Craig stepped into that part even further and went even more like just embraced the silliness of that
mhm.
character a bit. Because I mean, I feel like at this point in his career, because he's I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say he was overplaying James Bond. He probably was. I just think that at this point that he wants to have fun, and you can tell that he really wants to have fun,
Yeah.
and that kind of shows on screen in these movies. I think was absolutely hilarious. I think everyone from
Mhm.
top to bottom was very good. I mean, there were certain people that like I
Oh yeah.
don't like. I watch Outer Banks and am familiar with Madeline Klein. I thought that she would just be like pretty face because like I mean Outer Banks is known for its pretty faces. You probably don't watch it, but like it's known for its pretty faces. And I thought even she like held her own like comedically with like some of them in like certain scenes. Like she, and then I'm saving her for last because Janelle Monáe was also very good, like pulling
Yeah.
double duty basically.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was actually a big surprise. I really liked that little twist. This is so my personal opinion on Glass Onion. It pretty much outdoes everything that the first one did. Um,
yeah,
Clearly because there's a tighter script. Ryan
yeah,
Johnson had clearly had a lot more fun writing this one than I mean, not to say he didn't have fun writing the last one, but it feels like there was a bigger thought process in this one, and that's what made it so crisp.
yeah,
You know, it felt like a fresh page ripped out of a new book. You know, the ensemble alone was just one of the biggest highlights. I mean, I think it's because there was just a lot more at stake, and it felt a lot more unpredictable than the first. Because in the first one, I don't know, it felt a little like, I could have thought that from the beginning because I immediately assumed that Chris Evans had something to do with it,
no, yeah.
and I
Only
mean,
because
it
like
turns
he
out that,
there, I
and then at the end, it turns out he did.
yeah, like only because like I think because it's Chris Evans, they're like, oh, he has to be like playing against type, like you know what I mean,
It's like
like
it's like you don't it's like you don't just have him play Captain America for so long and then not make him like the bad guy.
bad guy.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
he wanted to take that role as a way to like to just kind of like separate that
yeah,
for once. Like I want to play the opposite of what I'm known for. I mean, goes to show. I mean, look what he played in The Gray Man. He was the bad
yeah,
guy in that, right?
the bad guy. Yeah, yeah, that's
but
true.
but no, yeah, the Glass Onion, just in like some sort of like nutshell, it outdoes the first in every way possible. I'm ready for more Daniel Craig, Ryan Johnson adventures here because clearly this is something Ryan Johnson's passionate about. He loves these Agatha Christie inspired, mysteries,
Reese,
you know.
yeah,
And like I said, this one felt like there was a lot more at stake. There was a lot more unpredictability. Um, it was a lot funnier. And you got to thank the cast for that. I mean, Dave Bautista, man, like, oh my god,
I
he
think
he doesn't even
everyone.
try to be funny anymore. He's just funny.
It's just
Like,
funny. I think they all leaned into those roles like they knew exactly who they were playing, and they all leaned into them
right,
and he did with his too, and like I like that you mentioned that it was funnier. I thought it was funnier too. I thought there was a little bit of a tonal shift between like the style and tone of the first movie compared to this one. I thought like
hmm
they leaned in more on the comedic stuff a little bit in this one.
yeah,
Um, but even though I did think that like not to say that it was serious, there's nothing really serious in the movie, but I still thought the character relationships were well thought out though, like how they connected them all together and like uh, there was like genuine like why they would stick together, why they would betray each other. Like there was, I actually
exactly.
bought into that.
I, I think what was easier this time is that they weren't a family
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I mean in the first and like in Knives Out, while I love the family dynamic about how dysfunctional they were, we've seen that a lot before. We've always seen a
no,
dysfunctional family, no matter how big or small. And it was nice to see, like friendship be affected by this because we rarely get to see like a group of friends, at each other's throats.
yeah,
Yes, it's been done before, but we've never seen it like this before.
right,
Especially with what was at stake and the way it plays itself out. And
yep.
it just all comes full circle in the end. And a lot of people, this is something I hate that a lot of people are criticizing. It's the ending. And
No,
I personally thought the ending was fine. Like it was perfect. A lot of
yeah,
people called it childish. And I'm like, how so? Why would it be childish? Like, you know, obviously, I mean, this is going to be a spoilery chat. So
yeah, of course,
obviously, Edward Norton was a mastermind here. He executed everything. He killed the twin sister, because he didn't want his, little secret to get out,
yeah,
and so forth. But everyone said that, oh, it was very childish of him to do it the way he did. I'm like, you do realize he's like a rich kid, he's spoiled. Of course he's going to
yeah.
act in childish ways to get what he wants. And that's a
Once,
lot of
yeah,
people, or a lot of higher class people, are known for. They won't stop until they get what they want. They don't understand the power of the word no.
Yeah.
And he played that to perfection.
He's being compared to
couldn't see anybody else doing it.
he's being compared to Elon Musk a lot, the character a bit. And like
That's a
they were
really good comparison.
yeah, they were asking how like if that inspired him a little bit, and like I think it did. I think there was a little bit of that. I mean, like, kind of tech billionaire. I mean, like there's a whole stereotype for that kind of a person a bit. They and I get what you're saying about it being a lot of these people that end up with a bunch of money like that. They're not just because they end up with a lot of money and like they might be having a lot of money and stuff, but they don't have like some of them don't really have like social graces like at all. They like are some of them are like some of them are man children basically just with like a lot of money behind them. And I think he played that up, really well.
That's exactly what he plays.
And I love that they kind of they pointed to that in like Daniel Craig's like takedown of him, like when he kind of broke down how stupid like his overall plan was, like especially when he was like when he was like basically like the only good idea like you stole from me, like from our conversation, like the only good idea that you had. And then like he was like pointing out all the words that he said that were like either wrong or like they're like, oh, it sounds like a word, but that's not a word. Like all the things that he kind of pointed out to him that made him think like, I just loved how he basically broke it down. He's like, you're an idiot. Like this isn't like brilliant at all. Like you're just an idiot with a lot of money, basically. I thought Edward Norton played that really well, and it's really cool. Edward Norton is still one of my favorite actors, and he used to have a reputation for being hard to work with, and I love that in the last like few years, I think that's kind of like gone away a little bit because I think he kind of took a beat. He took a beat and started doing like, I think he got a bit more choosy. I think that kind of started with like Birdman, I guess, where he kind of got a little bit more choosy about what he was doing, and it's just cool to see him have fun and still be like a good actor, but like he's clearly like in on like the jokes and all that stuff. And like I got the this is working with this is a far cry from the guy back in the day who like was forced to do the Italian job because like he was under contract with Paramount, like, oh, I have to do this movie. This guy wanted to be there for this, and you can tell that like he was having a ton of fun. I mean, all of them were, but like it's cool seeing
a joke. There's actually a joke going around about him. Is that a lot of people are asking? So did he try to take control of this one too?
Oh Jesus! It'd be too hard. I think it'd be too hard on that set. I was like, you know what? I think Daniel Craig would have the most power on that set, right? Of the ensemble.
Oh yeah.
He would have, even though like I mean, Kate Hudson's no slouch either. I mean, she comes from like Hollywood like royalty a bit. But I think like in that ensemble cast, it's Daniel Craig, and then like everyone else kind of has to fall in line. But what I liked is that everyone that was picked for their roles like were just perfect for their parts. Like Jessica Henwick playing the assistant to Kate Hudson's character. I know a lot of girls who are like that, who work for people like either famous people or just like rich people, and like that whole scene she had when she was trying to convince him about like she can't release that statement because like basically like my resume is this and then a whole lot of this. That's all I got. Like I know so many people that have ever been in that position where they're like, hey, I got nothing if this like falls apart, and that kind of like neurotic, I'm putting out fires, figuratively and sometimes literally in the case of this movie. So like I thought she nailed that really well, that aspect of the character really well. Like I said, like Dave Bautista was really, I mean, like you said, he doesn't even have to try to be funny anymore. And now I see kind of what he gets at when he talks about acting, because I used to like kind of rag on him because he would kind of scoff at people being like, oh, would you like work with like Dwayne Johnson or John Cena, because they all came from wrestling. And he used to make those comments like, oh, I want to make films, I want to like challenge myself as an actor, which I thought was like kind of insulting to them. But I kind of see what career trajectory he wants to be on. Like it seems like he really wants.
When you compare the movies that Bautista's in and The Rock is in, I mean, there's a heavy line to be drawn there.
Yeah, I mean, like I can tell
Dwayne Johnson or The Rock wants to
he wants to make like mass appealing movies, right? He wants to make like big like cinema style movies, and like Dave Bautista, it seems like he really wants to work with filmmakers, like he wanted to like that is. And I kind of see that now in all his recent stuff where it's like, okay, I can see that you want to work with people that like challenged you and like allowed you to do something different. Either if that is stretch your dramatic muscles, if you're doing something like Dune or Blade Runner or 2049, or if you want to stretch your comedic muscles and do something like this movie, like I kind of see it now, and I don't know why it took me to see him in this to kind of realize that, but like it kind of shows like the kind of career he wants to have, and
especially
I respect
after
that.
Blade Runner. Yeah,
Yeah,
and after Blade Runner, I immediately knew, I'm like, this guy's gonna go places. He really wants to be in this game.
yeah,
He's gonna want it. He's gonna get it. And then now look at him. He stars in Glass Onion, and now he's gonna be in the next Shyamalan movie. I mean,
yeah,
look how much how much that speaks. He went from Guardians of the Galaxy to freaking M. Night Shyamalan. Like, how do you how can you make it not? How can you not make it clear enough that this is what you want? You want to be an actor,
right.
For,
By the way,
for like the director that will direct your acting, not so much tell you, oh, jump.
yeah. By the way, he's working with Scorsese or Spielberg before Dwayne Johnson does. I would like put money on that if I had to choose between the two of them. If because I feel like I said, he seems like he wants to hone his craft and he wants to work with really good filmmakers. And by the way, and I also want to point out, there's nothing wrong with like what Dwayne Johnson is doing with his career, because there is a place for like box office stars and stuff like that. But like I said, I used to like kind of like, oh, Dave Bautista, I feel like you're throwing shade, but I get what he's saying now, and I get what he's trying to do, and I think he's so far succeeding at it really well. I want to point out Catherine Hahn too, because I actually love her a lot and thought that she was really really
funny
good.
because I actually thought she was going to be the mastermind.
I did too.
After the whole Agatha thing.
Yeah, I did too. I thought it was going to be her, and so wrong. You know what? Speaking of the overall mystery, I didn't really crack it.
Neither did
I was trying.
I was very, like I said, like I've pointed out, the unpredictability factor was so good in this.
Right.
It was like, then this was, and I did a little mini review on it. Like, this is probably the most fun I've had at the movies in a while.
Yeah, yeah, me
sure,
too.
I go to see blockbuster movies, like those are fun to watch, but to go watch a movie like this and to have you guessing the way it had me guessing, that's what I mean by fun. Like, I like to be put in a position where I don't know what's happening next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's exactly what Glass Onion did for me. The whole mystery was perfect. Like, I couldn't think of it. At first I'm thinking, okay, this is a little weird. Like, okay, like, why is he inviting them to the island? It's just them. It doesn't even look like they want to be there. Some of them aren't even supposed to be there, but okay, I'll let it slide. And then it's like I said, the movie has you thinking it could be anybody.
Right.
That's what I liked. Is that it just makes you think, like, okay, it could be anyone at this point. It could even be freaking, it could even be Daniel Craig for all I know.
Yeah. But that was the cool thing, because I think I was so focused on like, Edward Norton being the one that was maybe going to die, because I thought that was going to be the focus, that they were going to kill him.
That's what I thought too.
And like, and then like that isn't what happened, and I was like, all right, well, I love the misdirection. I also love the funny misdirection of them.
Really threw me off.
Yeah, I love the funny misdirection of having him like solving like the murder mystery like game like right away at the table, and like how frustrated Edward Norton looked. I thought that was really funny as well.
The little arrow to the chest with the cherry on top.
And the spurt,
so bad.
The spurt of blood. Yeah, I thought, or the fake blood. Yeah, that was really funny. And then he gave him the iPad, that whole big running joke about like, oh, we get a prize at the end. He's like, yeah, I'll give you an iPad, like whatever. But even all that stuff,
juice.
Yeah, all that stuff makes so much more sense too. It's so cool how it comes together, because like what you eventually find out is like, Janelle Monáe's character is actually her sister. And they actually talk about like how they're gonna. He's like, when I get there, I'll play up the whole kind of like dumb like Southern like bumpkin thing, and that's what he did the first half of the movie, where he was like, yeah, I'm a really good detective, but like I'm so excited to be here. Like, oh, this is a game. Like, oh, what are we doing? Like, he played that up because that was their plan. Like from the start, we don't learn that until later. But like, and when I was watching it, because like because the best supporting actress field is so like, I don't want to say weak, but it's not as strong as the other fields for like the Oscars. A lot of people have been saying Janelle Monáe might sneak in, so when I was watching her
Uh-huh.
and then she got off so quick, off so quick, I was like, well, she didn't do much to do it. Like, what are people talking about? And then it went on, and then like she did the whole sister thing, and I was
And
like,
then you're like,
oh, I
I see
see
now.
it. I see it.
Yeah, exactly.
She's
That's what I said too. I'm like, really? Like that's it? Like
I
she
was
just
like,
played like the sneery character? Like that's it? And then when it kept going, I'm like, oh, perfect. This is what
yeah,
they were talking about. I'm in.
exactly. And you know what? And those two characters were so different. Like they were like so completely different.
Mhm.
And she nailed like both of them. And I love the whole like when they were just going back and retracing, like when you saw her kind of like stumble the first time when after she was talking to Catherine Hahn's character, and they kind of went back
Yeah.
to why she had been doing that, because like she was drinking those like hard seltzers thinking they weren't like alcohol really,
Mhm.
and like she's just like basically drunk. Yeah, I thought she played that stuff really well, and also it was a really cool like in a movie that's so like kind of slapsticky and silly, really cool sympathetic thing to
Mhm.
have her be the one that wanted to do that like for her sister, and then having like Daniel Craig's character actually care enough to like want to help her, like
Mhm.
and and it's dude, and I also loved after the whole they find out that she didn't die and like she had the like
I
trophy,
know.
well,
I was I was so upset. Like once I found out like what was going on, I'm like, so all of that just so she could die, and then oh,
yeah.
the bullet didn't even hit her.
Yeah, yeah, and I was dying when they used the hot sauce, the Jeremy Renner hot sauce.
I know
Uh,
that was such a convenient thing to have. Like, who the
yeah,
hell just carries hot sauce on?
yeah. And then I loved when it was like dripping down towards her nose, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And she was just like, and you could see she's
Oh yeah,
like,
but
it was
everything was so perfectly timed. I'm like, oh, I would have not been able to,
yeah,
not
no,
at
not at
all.
all, not at all.
But then
Yeah,
they turned their back.
everything about this movie is like you have to accept like, and I accepted every twist that they kind of threw at us. I mean, I was like, all right, this works for me. It wasn't like, oh, that kind of stretches things a bit. I actually bought into like all the stuff that they were like
Mhm.
trying to sell, like all the twists and turns. Um, I also, a side note, I also loved when they were talking to Kate Hudson's character about the sweatshops, and then she was like, she was like, "Wait, please tell me that you did not think that sweatpants were made, in, like that's where they made sweatpants at sweatshops." And she was like, "Yeah, it was so good."
I'm
Like,
like, wow, like they couldn't have picked a better blonde moment for Kate Hudson.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I could tell when they were doing the whole like her dressing like Beyonce thing. They were like, "Oh, she's just so like she's so not self aware of like
Right.
how bad things look." And then like how her sister had to take her phone away, and then she ended up having a secret phone anyway. I thought all that stuff was like super funny, and for some reason, I mean, I laughed at it too, but our whole theater like cracked up when she yelled out like, "What's reality?" When like she was like the whole like reveal with like the like, oh god, when it was, I think it was the reveal of the sister or like whatever it was, and she like just
Mhm.
shouted out of nowhere like, "What's reality?" And
I
everyone was
think
like,
I actually had a reaction out of that too. If I remember which scene it was, yeah, I'm telling you, it's because my theater was just cracking up the whole time, and I
yeah,
was like, what? I was like one of the initiators too, because I would laugh and everyone would laugh with me, and it was just like,
yeah,
oh my god, this is good.
yeah. And then I didn't bring up Leslie Odom Jr. and I'm not saying that he wasn't good. I think he just had like the less flashy character of the
Yeah, he
ensemble.
didn't have a lot to work with, but even with what he had to work with, I think he
Yeah,
made a pretty good impression on who he was and the
yeah,
character that
yeah,
he played. Um, but I think he was just like intentionally one of the more sidelined ones. I don't know why. But even so, like what he had, I mean, it just goes all around. The entire ensemble showed up. They knew the assignment and they
yeah,
aced it. They
yeah,
knew exactly what to do and everyone played their part correctly. But him in
yeah.
particular, I really wish he had a little bit more to work with. That's probably like one of my only irks is that since everyone kind of had something and he kind of didn't,
Right.
but even then he still made he still made a fathomable impression on me
Yeah,
at least.
I think so too. I think like in an ensemble like this, especially like one that's more comedic, like every one of these needs like a straight man, and I think that's who he was.
Yeah.
I think he was the least silly of the bunch, and I think because I think you need one person to kind of be that guy, and I think that was him.
He
Like I
kind of
said,
like if you notice, he is actually he was kind of the mediator because he was also like the smart one or the other
yeah,
smart one of the group.
yeah.
So like
Yeah,
you need that mediator in a group of like, different people that are,
yeah,
so they're either too much of something or they're not enough of something, and that's what makes their character so special. And he's the
yeah,
one that always is in between, trying to keep the balance of the group. So it's like
yeah.
I said, despite him not having much to work with, he'd make a really good impression on what he wanted to do with that character, and I think he did a
Yeah,
really good job at that.
I thought so too. And also, there were a lot of random cameos in the
Oh, dude,
movie.
Ethan Hawke, man.
Ethan Hawke, I thought that was cool to see. Um, the late Angela Lansbury was in like
Yeah.
the game stuff that when he was playing in the bathtub. He was playing that like whatever game it was he was playing.
Natasha Lyonne was in it
You
too.
know,
I was
yeah,
so
Tasha Leone, and then
I was so like, whoa, she's in this. This is so cool.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in that like
That's
little
true. Yes.
yeah, it was just, I mean, a lot of cool little fun like cameos
It's
and
like you
Easter
can tell
eggs.
that they had a bigger budget this time, so they thought, let's just
Yeah,
fork some money out. Let's bring some extra people in. Why not?
I know, right, not, and I think like, and I think that helps with like the success of the first movie because not only was it like
Mhm.
financially successful, it was critically successful.
Yeah.
Its script got nominated for an Oscar. There are a lot of people that think that this script could too because they think it's even tighter, like you said, than the
He didn't
script
win
for the.
for it, did he?
No, he just got
Ryan Johnson?
nominated.
No, he
Yeah,
didn't. Okay.
he just nominated. Yeah, but like you said, this script feels a lot tighter than the first movie, so he
It could
does
get
have
a
a shot.
nomination for sure. I have a feeling that even Daniel Craig could start getting some buzz for this because his acclaim surrounding the character he plays, it goes for miles.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
clearly he's a parody of Hercule. I don't know how to say his name, but
Oh,
I think
from
I
like the
think
Agatha Christie.
yeah, like the actual Agatha Christie, like Murder on the Orient
Yeah,
Express, things like that. Um, but even then, as a parody of a character, he made the character his own,
yeah, I agree
and
so too.
and that alone is something to look at, especially
Yeah,
coming from Daniel Craig, who like just is fresh off of James Bond, and he's trying to break out of that little like typecast, you could say.
yeah, and it's good for him because like I think that like since James Bond is such a serious like character, it's so cool
Mhm.
to see him like. I mean, we got to see him kind of loosen up in like Logan Lucky. Like he was really funny in
Yeah,
that too. Um, but this character is just so like over the top, but still like relatable in a way. Like he's silly, but like he's still like it's not too much of a
mhm.
caricature where like he loses like any humanity. I think like I think there's still
No.
like a realism to him, even though he's like
I think
a bit over the
I
top.
think what helps it too is that he knows the difference between right and wrong. He's not a rule breaker. He's not a
Right,
a corrupt person. He's just a human being that has a
right,
mind.
because
You know
he makes that point to her, right? Like this is where my jurisdiction ends. I can only gather
exactly.
clues and do all like yeah, I can't like
Like I'm not gonna do it from here on, but you can. I'm gonna let you do this from here on
yeah.
out because
But
this
by
is
the
where
way,
I sign
when
off.
she, when she was holding the napkin out like that, I was like, he's gonna do something to it. I was like, she was just like basically like it was like dangling in his face, and I was like, Aerodorn's gonna do something to it, and then he just lit it on fire, and I was like, fuck. I was like, how are they gonna? Yeah, I thought I was like, God, just like pull it away.
I thought it was nice. I thought it was a nice touch that everything got burned down because it kind of goes to show the whole like norm about how rich people can have it all and
Yeah,
then lose it in like the blink of an eye. And that was beautifully executed in Glass Onion, because
yeah,
all it took was one person to destroy it all, and it happened that way, and she burned everything to the ground,
yeah.
and at the hand of a little rock.
A Little Rock, yeah, yep, I agree. Who was your favorite character?
Definitely Dave Bautista's character.
Okay, yeah, he was
I
funny.
I have to give it to him. It's like you said, the misdirection in that was perfect. The pineapple juice,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't stop laughing about the pineapple juice.
Juice. Yeah, yeah. I thought that was funny too. Yeah, he was really good. Like I said, he has really good comedic timing, and I think he knows like it's not just the way like he talks to you, like he knows his like physicality too. He knows like how to like
I
yeah
think what I liked most about his character is that his job was like the most out of
yeah
place thing that I've ever seen in my life. He was a
yeah
freaking he was a freaking media influencer on
yeah
Twitch.
yeah on
I'm like,
Twitch. Yeah,
that is such an anti Bautista thing to do,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah. He would
love that
never do
about him
that. Yeah,
because exactly.
yeah. I thought that was really funny.
But
Um,
if I'm being honest too, I loved Ed Norton's character, because he knows how to he toyed with the audience so well that like not even
yeah,
just like the character alone, but the way he acted in that role, made it seem like, oh shit, like someone's after me, and then it's like, oh no, I was after myself the whole time, like
yeah, yeah. I agree. Um, I gotta give it to Kate Hudson. I mean, only she made me laugh the most, and
yeah,
but
definitely.
because I like you said, everyone understood the excitement, and I really think she really got what that character was, and
She ate it up.
played up her
She ate it
stupidity
up.
a bit, ate it up completely, and like because like and this is the thing too, like Kate Hudson, like since she broke out in Almost Famous, like I've always
Mhm.
kind of complained that like her career is so inconsistent. Like it's like it kind of goes up and down with like the choices that she makes, and like I can't tell. Like I think she's a good actress, like she's proven that. But sometimes
Yeah.
it's like she'll have one good one here, and then like and then like and like it's
I
never.
still can't. I still can't get over Fool's Gold. I hate to say it. I just
Yeah,
can't get over
yeah,
Fool's Gold.
yeah. And then but she, I mean, but she is funny, and like you get like and like
Definitely.
and it's cool that she was able to like kind of show that off in a really unique way in this. I just wonder,
Mhm.
like, I would have loved to like to see interviews with her and see who inspired this character though, because there it has to be someone in the industry somewhere that
It's like
like.
I said. I have a feeling that she drew inspiration from Almost Famous and played like a different version of Penny Lane. Like it had to have been that. I swear. Like
Yeah,
this is like post Penny Lane. Like she found stardom as as like this entrepreneur out of nowhere. Like cool.
yeah,
And now
dude.
she's just like, and now she got too deep into it that
Yeah,
it kind of got to her.
I was dying when like they were trying to figure out the song in the clue box, and she was like, "I'll just have Alexa Shazam it." And she was like, "Dude," and she was like going through this whole thing, like, and then she was like, "Oh wait, this isn't an Alexa, this is a lamp," and then, like just put it down. And, like she was just so lovably stupid. I mean, like it was, and then like her scream also was really like over the top and funny as well. Every time
Yeah,
something like happened, like was really good too. I don't know,
I
like
think
I
it
agree
goes
with
to
you.
show too. I think it goes to show like people in her age group, or at least her character's age group, like have
Yeah.
such a reliance on technology they just forget how to use it for a
Is
minute.
it? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Like you said, though, I think this was probably the most fun I've had in the movie theater, like all year.
Yeah.
It was like really, it was a really solid,
I
like,
think I think Scream was a close second, but I mean Scream obviously never fails to like make you have fun because they're
yeah,
whodunits on their own terms.
yeah,
But I think as far as murder mysteries go, at least for this year, Glass Onion was definitely the most fun I had at the movies, without a
yeah.
doubt.
Me too. And now it's like what he has. All right, out of the gate, he has two really good. Yeah, Knives Out was solid. This is really good. I think it was even better than the first one. It makes
Mhm.
me wonder, like, what direction he'll take the third one in, because we get one more,
I have a
at least
feeling
one
he's
more.
gonna go in a more thriller slash horror route. I really
Oh,
want to
really?
see him do something horror. Yeah.
That would actually be kind of cool. I think. I wonder, like, because the comedy works so well in this. I would hope that he wouldn't lose. I mean, not to say that the first one wasn't funny, but this one definitely leaned in on like the comedic aspects a lot more than the first movie. I think the first movie was like funny in a more subtle way,
Yeah.
almost like kind of like a snarky kind of way. Like I don't want to say like intelligent, but like that's what it kind of like. Oh yeah, that was funny. But this one was more like outright, like kind of hilarious.
Mhm.
And I kind of wonder if he'll do that with a third movie too, like kind of stick with that.
I
But that'd
think
be
I think the comedy is definitely here to stay.
yeah,
'Cause they know that they're parodies of like murder mysteries that are big.
yeah,
Um, but that's what makes them so special. Is that
yeah,
they're I think they're self aware enough to the point where like okay, this is something you don't want to take serious, but it's still gonna keep you like wondering like okay, how is this gonna end? It could end in so many ways.
yeah. I agree.
But no, yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I love Knives Out. I love this one even more. I can't wait for the next one. And even there was even something that Daniel Craig had said. Like he said he was willing to make these with Ryan Johnson until he dies.
Oh, then like keep it going, keep it going. Like BR,
I
like
mean,
yeah,
I'm sure they'll come to an end at some point. But I wouldn't mind seeing these go on as long as they don't like overstay their welcome. I guess you could say.
right. I mean,
Like
like
if Ryan Johnson knows that he can't do it anymore, then don't do it anymore.
yeah, and also like so we the last one came out in 2019, so it was a 2 year gap.
Mhm.
And so like that was actually, I mean, like I wouldn't mind getting these every 2 3 years. Like that's enough space,
Yeah.
in my opinion. You know what? I am kind of like,
Yeah. Exactly.
there's nothing we could do about the Netflix deal, like that it happened. I'm glad that I chose to see this in theaters, like for the week that it was out. Um, I am kind of bummed that it's
Mhm.
not getting like a full theatrical release though, because I think it deserves one. Um,
I feel
I
like
mean,
they might change their mind about that once they see how big the numbers are for the Netflix premiere, because I know it's going to have big numbers for Netflix without a
yeah, I think
doubt,
so too. I think so
and
too.
so much that it might even like and so much that it might even like hey, you missed it in theaters, here's your chance, like go see it again or go see it
Yeah,
this time.
yeah. You know, and I keep hearing murmurs that like they're considering like a re-release of it in theaters, like after it debuts on
That
Netflix.
would
I
be
don't know if
cool.
that'd be kind of cool.
I wouldn't mind seeing it in theaters again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, like I had a friend that was like, "Oh, when is it like leaving?" And I was like, he actually called me today, and I was like, "I think today's the last day." And he was like, "Oh," I was like, "Yeah, you gotta wait until like you gotta wait
Because I
like
think it
23
comes out
days."
on Friday, doesn't it?
I think like it's December. No, it's actually mid December, like December 23rd, like when it hits
Oh shit.
Netflix. So it's a big gap, and I think they want to use that like month to kind of be like, "Oh, like this movie did really well in theaters. I didn't get to catch it. I don't have Netflix yet." That's what they're kind of hoping, that people will just like
Mhm.
subscribe and like just to see it. Um, but who knows? I mean, I don't completely agree with the business model, but like, you know, and I'm glad that they were willing to admit today that they know they left money on the table, not letting it run longer in theaters.
Yeah.
I mean, that I thought that was like, at least they were willing to admit that. But they're also saying that this is a strategy that it was the first time they really did it, right? Like and even though this was
Mhm.
considered like a limited release too, because it wasn't in like 1,000 theaters. It was only in a little over 600. Um, so
Yeah.
like this is like a test run, and I know they opened Red Notice in like a small amount of theaters, like when that came out before it hit Netflix, and that barely made any money because it wasn't on a lot of screens at all. Um, but yeah, this will be an interesting model to see what they test it. I don't know when they'll test this out again. I'm assuming it'll be with the third movie. That sounds like a and I
I'm pretty
predicting
sure
that.
it'll be like whatever Adam Sandler movie comes out next.
Yeah, probably. And if they do this with the third movie, I think they might let it run longer than a week if they do that with the third film.
Oh, definitely. I think the only reason they did it this way is because, it's still post-COVID and a lot of people are resorting to streaming these days.
Yeah,
And compared to like Knives Out when that was pre-COVID, people are still going to the movies. So that's probably why they didn't want to like take that risk of like, losing
yeah,
revenue instead of like, trying to see if they'll gain it. But
yeah,
I think this number alone that they got just in that 1 week window, it should
yeah,
show them or maybe give them an idea like, okay, maybe it's safe now, you know?
yeah. I think so. And we talked about this a little bit when we were bringing up box office. Like they talked about this on Deadline a lot too. I think studios just have to pay attention to what movies the older demographic is willing to go out and see. Like
Right.
this time last year it was House of Gucci, right? And however you feel about that movie, like whatever, but it was a flashy like true crime, like based on a true story with Lady Gaga, and like had a lot of promotion behind it. Like that was the reason why that movie made money. It was because of how they sold
Mhm.
it and what it was based on.
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything from Steven Spielberg. I saw The Fablemans, I loved it, but that's not gonna be for everybody.
I love the Fablemans. I
I
love
love
the
the
Fablemans.
I did too. I love The Menu, but that's not gonna be for everyone either. Like I
That's a
haven't seen.
great movie too. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
I loved it, and like I haven't seen Bones and All yet, but I hear it's great. But I know that's definitely not for everyone. So like it
Definitely.
there can't be these complaints about like, well, people aren't going to see like adult fare. Like no, it's not. Some of them are either too niche or it's just not what people are willing to go out and see. And
Right.
Ryan Johnson has found a sweet spot with these murder mysteries that they are aimed at an older audience, but clearly like the younger demo is picking up on this too. But like I honestly think,
I think it's because they're easy to watch.
yeah, yeah,
It's not
they're not,
it's
it's a
if you
breeze.
compare them to like the if you compare them to the older murder mysteries, like like the original Murder on the Orient Express
Yeah,
or Death on the Nile, those were very like not so much hard to watch, but they were a different style of movie. And
right,
when you watch Knives Out or Glass Onion, they're like comfort watches. Like, you know, you're comfortable
Yeah.
watching these because they're not hard to understand or follow. Like, they're very straightforward, you know, nothing too abstract or anything like that. They're just easygoing movies.
They're easygoing movies,
And they're fun, you know.
and the cast is. I feel like they pick the right people to be in them. Like they're all people that like
Mhm.
most of us are familiar with. Like it's you know
Right.
it. They're all having a good time. Like you know, and I will say the first movie came out as a surprise to me because I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting much at all. I thought you know it would be like a quick like oh that was cool and then be over with. I'm
Yeah.
glad it turned out. I'm glad it turned out to be much better than what it was because we got this, and I'm looking forward to what he does with the third movie as well. I'm also curious of like what ensemble cast he'll build around Daniel Craig for a third movie too. I think they're very smart.
Watch him put Adam Sandler in it.
Well, I know. I think they've been very smart across both movies at picking
Mhm.
like kind of like veteran actors, but then also mixing them in with like
A newer
kind of like
generation.
newer, like kind of like the Dave Bautista's, like he's not really like a young actor, but like someone like,
He's
and then
new
like,
again.
and then you get someone like Madeline Klein, who like a younger people know who she is because like that's who watches The Outer Banks. So like, I think it's
Yeah.
good that you're kind of picking people from all these different demos, and I think that they should continue that in the third one, like as far as
Yeah.
like how they put the cast together. Also, you know, having Janelle Monáe in there and like Leslie Odom Jr. like kind of like the first diversifying it a bit more. I think that was good this time around as well. Uh, you know, I know we had like Lakeith Stanfield in like the first one, but like I think that's important too. I think like the way they've cast both movies is very smart. You know,
Yeah.
and then like and you know that first movie like kind of putting Ana de Armas like a bit more on the map and like letting her lead that movie essentially, and like you know making her like a pretty big star in the process.
Mhm.
Like I thought that was just very smart. I mean, I don't know how involved Ryan Johnson is in picking everyone. You know, I don't know where he stands as a director as far as actors being like, no, I want to work with you.
He's clearly an act. He's clearly an actor's director,
Yeah, yeah,
and he knows how to pick his people.
yep, yep. And he's done a good job across two movies, and I really enjoyed this one. It's in my top 10 for the year. I still have a couple more things to see, but it's in my top 10 for the year. I don't know where I'm placing it yet.
I think I pretty much have my top 10 figured out. I mean, yes,
Oh,
there's a few more things I do have to see, but I know for a fact that what I have so far is probably is there to stay.
I saw your
just have to
letterbox.
keep
Like
going down.
Scream is like chilling, like hanging on by a thread.
It's there, but
hanging on by a thread at the end.
honestly, you know, what's funny about Scream is that it moves a lot. It moves because I rewatched it recently and I didn't move it down there on purpose. It's just that other movies happened to be on top of it. So as a result, it started moving down. Not so
Right.
much that I wanted it there, but it just so happened that it started moving down because
Yeah.
of it.
Still good on rewatch though. I think it's still a pretty solid
Oh yeah,
movie on
easily.
rewatch. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to that sixth one. And please drop that trailer soon because you know it's almost December.
Apparently it's supposed to happen December. Yeah. So I'm patiently
Perfect.
waiting, and I already have a guess as to who the opening kill is, and it's Samara Weaving.
Oh, that would be cool. Because she's kind of like one of those stars now where she's like kind of big ish.
Yeah.
So that'd be actually be a cool setup.
I think it'd just be ironic is because she led one of Matt and Tyler's movies. Now that
Oh, right,
now that
ready
she's
or not.
already like friends with them and stuff, yeah,
Yeah,
it would be funny to see her like be in the first frame, but then also be the first kill. Like that would be pretty neat.
I agree. I think so. Well, Donnie, thank you once again for showing up for this and talking Glass Onion with me and the great Marvel debate that keeps raging on and on and on in the industry.
Yep.
Uh, um, you actually will be on again very soon. We're doing an anniversary episode for Scream 2 that Donnie said he wants to
Yes.
be a part of. So I'm actually crazy. I'm actually recording 3 episodes on that day of this show. I am doing that, and then I'm doing one with a page called Films at Home. He has 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. He's like all about physical
shit.
media. So I'm doing like
Yeah.
a thing with him about the importance of physical media and why people shouldn't give up on it. And then I'm also doing the first episode of our spin-off series with Owen on that day as well. So I will be very busy on
Perfect.
that Monday. But there's a lot of great content coming up.
Usually
And
Mondays are the busiest.
yeah, right. Yeah. There's a lot of great content coming up and a lot that we're excited to share with you guys. So as always, just you can listen to us across various podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Google Podcasts, wherever you want to listen to us. We're all there. We appreciate all the positive feedback and positive ratings, and we're doing really well the last few episodes too. So thank you for that as well. Donnie, once again, thank you for being an honorary co-host
Of
on the
course, and
show.
thank you for having me.
No problem. And yeah, until next time, guys, peace out.